Welcome back to Reap Your Roots. I'm honored that you're here listening in today. This episode's going to be a really special one. I'm going to be drawing a lot from my own experience, from lessons that I've learned in life, questions I've had, doubts, concerns, things that I've been trying to figure out on my life journey, and I hope that some of it can be relatable. This podcast, first, the idea came in through one of my clients who I've led through plant medicine ceremonies, through indigenous arts ways. One of their questions when they came to me after a ceremony, in their experience, in one of their ceremonies, they had a lot of visions of animal spirits and of nature and some things that would hint at earth-based spirituality. Now, the issue is this person was raised in Orthodox Christianity. They set the intentions going into the ceremony as just getting closer to Jesus Christ, and that is how we hold it. It's always the intention that the person is setting, and that's the focus of the ceremony always. And working with psychedelics, especially ones like mushrooms and MDMA, they are non-specific amplifiers, meaning they amplify things that aren't very specific. We can set intention, and then other things from the subconscious or archetypal collective unconscious realm can be amplified. So this person had some confusion, obviously, because even after the ceremony, they felt that these experiences were very profound, very spiritual. These animal spirits, this nature frequency that was coming in, that they were being shown, was very spiritual. But the religion of their youth was Christianity and Orthodox, meaning that there was only really Jesus, and that's really the only point of this life. And everything other than Jesus would be the devil. Spirits in nature, animal spirits, not literally, but if any spirituality outside of Jesus and Christianity was drawing them, then that could be deception. So that was their question. They were feeling from the spirit to be prompted to look into these animal spirits and nature and these indigenous ways, and also they were feeling from the spirit to deepen their relationship with Jesus and the gospel of which they knew growing up, and their religion. So they were in this tug of war, and I can definitely relate. So this podcast is going to be sharing a few of my experiences and a few of the insights that I've gained as I've leaned in to different forms of spirituality, and also leaned in to my faith with Yeshua and building upon that sure foundation. So I want to rewind it a couple years back to my first sweat lodge ever. For those who don't know, a sweat lodge is a Native American ceremony where there's a dome on the earth, there's a fire, you go in, you're bringing rocks in, using water to make steam, and that is essentially like a sauna. You're sitting on the earth, and there's symbolism with everything, with the dome, with the Mother Earth, with the rocks, with the ancestors, with the steam. There's songs, there's teachings. It's a really profound Native American ritual. And this was my first one ever that I went to. Me also being raised in Orthodox Christianity as a Mormon had some hesitancy going. I always was reserving myself, and before investing my faith, really wanted to seek out from an objective point of view if I could find God and if I could find Jesus in these type of rituals. I was feeling called to these types of Native American practices, but I really also had faith in Christ and a testimony of the religion in which I was raised. So I went a little bit hesitant, a little bit reserved, really excited and curious. And I remember the elder that was leading this Native American sweat lodge, as soon as we got around the fire, he wanted to open it up with prayer. And with a lot of my conditioning, especially on my Mormon mission down in Peru, being taught how the Incas and all of the native indigenous there were apostate or had lost the truth. They didn't know where the truth was. They didn't know about Jesus. They worshipped the sun. They worshipped nature, and essentially all of that equated to worshiping the devil in a lot of people's minds and a lot of what religion actually teaches. That's a teaching, though, that the water even is. When on my mission, I couldn't go swimming because the water was the realm essentially of the devil, and I could be drowned in the water. And nature and these guys that were worshiping the sun it was all corrupt. It was all apostate. They were all lost, right? So that's a lot of my conditioning. So going back to the sweat lodge, he's opening up the prayer, and I'm really at the edge of my seat, curious what he's going to say. And he says, "Father in heaven, we come before you as your children." And he starts to pray, addressing a Father in heaven, a creator God, a Father sky. And then he also starts addressing a Mother Earth. And this was a really profound experience for me, because something that I thought he was going to say, I thought he was going to start worshiping the devil. I didn't think Jesus would be mentioned. Jesus was actually mentioned in the sweat lodge. There was such a real spiritual energy around this whole ritual. One of the top 3 spiritual experiences in my life was the sweat lodge. And it was profound because it wasn't what I thought it was. He started it off praying to a Heavenly Father, and that immediately I was like, and it lowered my defenses and opened my mind to maybe there is something to learn here, because it feels familiar, it feels safe. I can open my mind and I can lean in to these indigenous teachings and to the sweat lodge. And because I was able to do that, it was one of the most profound experiences. This duality that I was raised in, many are raised in within Christianity, that it's either God or the devil, is very real. And it's a very fear-based paradigm as well. And don't get me wrong, I know there are energies and entities and forces out there of deception and of lies and of drawing us away from our true nature and from our freedom and from our ability to choose. I know that that exists. And there is so much power given to those. I've talked to many people, many clients and many Christians who give so much power to the devil, Satan, the dark forces, and they actually have more faith in those dark forces than they have in God. Because they know, or they think, they say that they know, that if they were to entertain anything out of what they were taught from childhood, or what was the one right way with Jesus, their interpretation of the Bible, which is there's 47,000 different interpretations at least of the Bible, because there's over 47,000 different sects of Christianity. So if there's anything outside of that is being taught, any wisdom tradition, any spirituality outside of that, then it must be coming from the devil. And that was something that was in my psyche even. There was a lot of fear and hesitation. Like I said, I was very reserved around the things that were calling me around the Native American church and other indigenous practices, and even things like yoga and the chakra system. Leaning into that, and now speaking to people online and people talking about how that really is just the devil deceiving everybody because they don't credit Jesus. And you guys know, if you've listened to this podcast a while, that I'm the first to credit Jesus. I'm all about the Yeshua way. And out of all my spiritual guides, allies, helpers, Yeshua is in the forefront. He has and always will be the one that is helping me to discern truth from error and to discern what I can actually receive as spirituality that is helpful, that is humbling, that is loving, that is kind. That is the fruits of the Spirit, and that is found in many, many, many more things than I originally thought. I thought it was only going to be found within my religion, which I was raised. And going back to my client, that's the toss-up that he's in right now, right? That's the back and forth he's in. Is it that Mormonism and Christianity is the only right way and the only God-given path for man? Or are there many paths to one truth? And I talk about this all the time through my own experience, that I have found many paths that have led to that one truth that is good, and which is good, that is God. So I wanted to look in the New Testament to help us understand this question, these doubts, this concern of, is it God? Is it the devil? Am I going to be deceived if I look into other things? Because Yeshua actually gave us a blueprint. His whole life is a blueprint of how we can have discernment and how we can embody divinity within our humanity, and that we don't need to be scared of our humanity. We don't need to be scared of the natural world either. That all of creation is good. It was good, is what Genesis says. And it actually says it several times, talking about how it's good. The waters, the earth, nature, earth-based spirituality isn't that far off then, if we're going by this Genesis description of what creation is and what the earth is. That should give us a little bit of comfort into leaning into this earth-based spirituality. But there's an experience that Yeshua had when he heals a demon-possessed man. The man is both blind and mute. And he heals him. The Sadducees and Pharisees always, as they're observing Yeshua, start to discredit him, because Yeshua was a revolutionary, right? He was raised in Judaism. He was raised in Nazareth, actually in the lineage of the Sadducees and Pharisees. He wasn't Christian. He never started a Christian church. He was a Jew, a revolutionary Jew. And he actually opened a lot of people's minds to the labels that we use and how unimportant they are, as he was inviting Jews and Gentiles and sinners and lepers, all these people into unity and into healing and into wholeness. Going back to this story, he heals this demon-possessed man, and the eyewitnesses begin to wonder if he's the Messiah for having this power. Sadducees and Pharisees identify this, and they try to discredit him by stating, it is only by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this man drives out demons. So he's saying, all these Sadducees and Pharisees are telling everyone, Yeshua is doing this because he has the prince of demons on his side to drive out these other demons. And there's a few times where they're trying to discredit Yeshua in this way by saying that it's demonic power. I don't know the scriptural basis that they're using to say that he's driving them out. It could have been they're just scared of him because he's a revolutionary. And it also could have been because he's using not normal means to heal people. If you go to another account, the deaf and blind man, one of his first miracles, that he grabs dirt with saliva and he puts it on the man's eyes, and then he tells the man to go wash in the pool of Siloam. And I've actually been to this pool, and it's really cool walking these streets and feeling the essence there of that land, and just such an epicenter of all these different religions, all these different labels coming here, all paying tribute and reverence to this Son of Man, to Yeshua. It's a really cool experience. But he goes, tells him to wash, and then the man is able to see. Now, this isn't a common way to heal people. In the Sadducees and Pharisees' time, the way to heal people was, one, you had to have the authority. You had to be high up in the hierarchical structure of the religion to be a healer. And in order to be high up in the hierarchy, you had to conform, and all of your thoughts or feelings or beliefs outside of what the Sadducees and Pharisees agreed upon was not okay. those beliefs had to be reeled into conformity in order to rise in the hierarchy, in order to receive the power or the authority to then heal people, to bless people. So that's the one big no-no that Yeshua was doing, because he didn't conform. Even from early on in his life, he was a revolutionary. He had different opinions. He saw things differently, and he shared them. And he did a lot of good. But in the Pharisees' mind, because it's not conforming, it wasn't good that he was doing. He was doing bad. He was rebelling. He was deceived. And so I love how in a lot of the miracles, he's using alternative ways to heal, which are actually, when you look into it, very parallel to a lot of indigenous healings, medicine men, a lot of pagan rituals to do healing, using things like the earth, like dirt, like saliva, like going to wash in a river or in a pool to wash your eyes. He's using elements of nature. He's using the elements, right? Dirt is of the earth, saliva is your water, using the water in the pool. All of these elements to do healings. So I could imagine at this time that could be very controversial. Now, I could imagine in this time, if someone were doing any kind of work like this, healing like this, using dirt, using water, using plants, using fungi, using different aspects of creation, different things that God created, I could see why, raised in Orthodox Christianity, in a hierarchical religion, in a patriarchal religion, that could be very triggering. That could be a tall tale sign that it can't be from God. But Yeshua's response to these Sadducees and to these Pharisees, as they're saying, it's the prince of demons, it's Beelzebub that you're doing all of this, that you're casting out demons, he tells them that is incongruent. It's not possible. A demon's not going to cast out other demons, because a house divided against itself is going to fall. So he, just in a very common sense way, says, look at the fruits. By their fruits ye shall know them. Or as he's talking about false prophets, which can be even considered in false healers or medicine people or anyone, any guide or facilitator. Look at the fruits. Look at the fruits. If the fruits are destruction, if the fruits are lies, if the fruits are harm, then yeah, maybe it's done by Beelzebub or by some other entity of that likeness. But if the fruits are healing, if the blind are actually being able to see, if the demons are actually being cast out, then it's not going to be coming from this source of demonic or evil origin. It's going to be coming from God. So Yeshua explains this in a very common sense way, and still, it's really hard in our psyches. It was hard in my psyche to differentiate between this duality of God and the devil, good versus evil. Everything that I was taught is good and right, and everything outside of that I need to be scared of, and I can't go swimming on my mission, and I can't, go to a Native American ceremony, and I can't smoke a sacred pipe, and all of these conditionings that I've received were a struggle. And it's because it's not just a mental thing. It's not just a belief system thing. It's actually a nervous system thing. When we are programmed in our nervous system and in our bodies that one way is right and good and safe and one way is bad and unsafe, then it doesn't matter logically what we're thinking. Like, I could logically explain what I just explained and nothing's going to change in anybody's belief systems, because even if it makes logical sense, the reality is what's coming up in your body and coming up in your nervous system when you think about connecting with an animal spirit or doing a ritual that is earth-based spirituality. If you were raised in Christianity, 9 times out of 10, if you even think about that, you're going to have a fearful response, that's going to hijack your nervous system, your emotions, your amygdala is going to go off, and you're going to say, the spirit is telling me that that is evil, even though that's really just unsafety in your nervous system and in your body because it's something you're not familiar with. You were never told that it could be safe. And so, of course, it's going to be unsafe or quote unquote evil when you start to blend your belief systems into your experience. So, if you can suspend all belief, and if you can really look at everything objectively and still know that you have a relationship with God in the way that you do. And if you are a Christian or you have a lot of faith in Yeshua, in Jesus Christ, then know that that is real, that that relationship is real, and that you have permission to lean in to spirituality, to whatever is calling you, to be able to experience for yourself. That's actually why we are here. So I share all of this solely to answer that question that that person asked me and also that I've had. If it's helpful, awesome. If it's triggering, awesome. You don't have to agree with me. We can agree to disagree. But if I would have heard these thoughts, I would have been able to step into those kind of containers with a lot more clarity and a lot more safety around plant medicine, around yoga even, and indigenous ways, and everything that is quote unquote opposite of what I was raised. And as I stepped into those containers, I realized that it's not opposite. It's actually one and the same. Many paths are leading to one truth. And that I have my ability to choose, and that I am here to experience life. And in the best way, the most faithful way, most humble way, most grateful way, most loving way, figure out what my inner experiences and inner relationship with the Christ is and with the higher power. So if you like this, send it to someone who you think would also like it as well. Like, subscribe, all the things. Love to keep jamming about this stuff. And if you're wondering how you can go deeper on these topics, a free community called Gnosis Rising, Gnosis space rising, that me and my wife have, that we talk all about religion, spirituality. It's not mostly talking about beliefs. We don't claim any certain beliefs or argue beliefs. We just talk about our own experience. That's what Gnosis is. Gnosis is direct experience. So each individual in our container has a different experience, and it's a really cool way that we can find unity through diversity rather than unity through conformity and establishing a right way and it only being that. A lot of times our spiritual journeys are in the unknown and are in diversity. So that's what this community is all about. Look it up, Gnosis Rising on School, and hope to see you in there. Much love. Remember to keep smiling.